So it was a long, hard day at work, and honestly, I'm kind of exhausted, but I'm still hungry. So, you know what sounds good? Some shrimps. Let's go. So, like any protein, there are a whole lot of ways to make shrimp, and I feel like frying them today. So, frying them is what I'm going to do because there's nobody here to tell me that I can't do them the way I want to do them. So, the thing is, I'm going to incorporate a couple of chunks of a couple of different recipes that I've used in the past, and the reason is because I can't decide which one I like better. And the beauty of all of this is I don't have to decide. Number one, because I'm a grown up and I've got to eat it or throw it out, and it's not really anybody else's problem. Well, now I'm making it your problem. So now it's our problem. But the other reason, and the more important reason, is that you can take little bits and pieces of all of the recipes that you love and incorporate them and throw them together to make your own. Or you can use the backbone of one, and then just a couple of elements of another can sort of be brought in. And that's sort of what we're going to do. I'm going to make some basic breaded fried shrimp, but I'm going to throw a little hot sauce in, and we're going to buttermilk them first because that's what sounds good to me. We're also going to throw a little Creole seasoning in because why? Again, sounds good to me. So here's our mise en place. And the only thing that we're missing is the buttermilk. You know what is a huge bummer is when you decide to make a recipe and you lay some shrimp out at room temp and then you don't have any buttermilk. What are we going to do? We're going to make some damn buttermilk. That's what we're going to do. So this is another thing to file under the why the hell would anybody buy it at the store file. Because all you need for buttermilk is some milk and then, no, not butter, something to curdle that milk. You can either use lemon juice, but you know what? That lemon isn't for you. Buttermilk, that's for later. You can also use white vinegar, and that's what we're going to do. So we've got a cup of milk and a tablespoon of white vinegar, and that literally is the recipe for buttermilk. We're going to stir it up. We're going to let it sit for 5 minutes. It's going to curdle, and that is that. You're welcome. So while that buttermilk is curdling and becoming buttermilk, here's what we got. A little under a pound of shrimp, larger the better in my opinion, peeled and deveined. You can do that yourself if you want to. Didn't want to. Leave the tails on, makes it easier to kind of dunk them. Flour, eggs, breadcrumbs. I like panko. We've got salt and pepper. We've got some garlic powder, and we've got a little Creole seasoning along with some hot sauce. And there's our bowl, because we're going to buttermilk soak these bad boys. So I got my flour, salt, pepper, garlic powder, and my Creole seasoning right in there. While we wait, let's beat these eggs like they owe us money. 5 minutes are up, so we have got buttermilk. We didn't have to go to the store. That would have taken way more than 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and throw a little hot sauce in there as well, because I want a little hot sauce in there as well. And then I'm gonna take just a fork or something, and we're just gonna mix that all up nice. Then just dunk them and let them sit while you doom scroll for a few. All right, now this is kind of important. Those shrimp have soaked in the buttermilk for about 5 minutes, so they're tender and they're gonna be beautiful. And we set up a little simple breading station here. We go flour, egg, breadcrumbs, FEB, and we're just gonna throw them on a sheet pan till they're all ready to go into the fryer. Let's do the thing. So again, that flour's been pre-seasoned. We're gonna roll them in that till they're coated up nice, and then we're gonna get them covered in that beaten egg. Finally, we're gonna finish in our breadcrumbs, and one tip I can give you about a breading station is you're gonna have a whole lot better time if you go ahead and just have a wet hand and a dry hand, and you kind of keep things that way throughout the entire process. Gonna save you from having to wash your hands after every single God-forsaken little shrimp. So we got all the shrimps ready to roll, and yes, thank you. I do know that there's not necessarily an S on the end, but it's fun to say, and I'm the one with the phone. So while that fryer is coming up to temp, let's make some cocktail sauce for dipping. All right, so cocktail sauce is red, so you probably guessed there's some ketchup in there. Equal part of chili sauce. Some lemon juice. Guys, you can buy lemon juice in the bottle. I think it tastes weird. Buy a lemon, squeeze out the juice. You got lemon juice. Worcestershire sauce, little hot sauce or sriracha, and a big old heaping helping of prepared horseradish. Now this is where you have the opportunity to really ramp up the spice or be a little bitch about it. I like my cocktail sauce really, really bold. But Dr. Derek, how do we know if it's good? Good. Stir it up and taste it. How the fuck you think? Clean as you go. All right, so we're gonna fry these about 6 at a time so they don't overcrowd. in the fryer, and we're gonna pull them out, drain them on a paper towel, and repeat that in batches until we've got all of our shrimp fried. Then they go on a plate, in the sauce, in here, and down into my belly. So while we're finishing these in batches and letting them dry on a paper towel lined plate, let me tell you a story that's kind of about seafood. So I deal with a lot of necrotic wounds in my line of work, and if you don't know, necrosis is essentially just tissue, like skin, muscle, fat, bone, that used to be alive and now it's dead. And dead stuff smells exactly like you'd expect it to smell. So if you think about the last time you left a piece of meat on the counter too long and it smelled like shit and you had to throw it away and probably open the doors and windows for a few days, well, that's just necrotic tissue, except we're talking about people instead of animal flesh. Same exact thing. Speaking of, though, I did go to a work dinner not too many years ago in Louisville, Kentucky, to Steakhouse, and the drive home was multiple hours, and it was the summer heat, and I did have a to-go bag with a filet that had been cooked Pittsburgh style, so barely cooked, on the back seat. And by the time I got home, I forgot it was there. And again, this was, did I mention it was summertime? It was summertime. It was hot. So I parked my car in the apartment parking garage on a Friday night, and I went and did all the weekend things. And it was nice out. And I think I rode the one wheel around downtown, and, you know, I may have even taken the bike out or something. But one thing I sure as shit didn't do was get in the car. Well, Monday morning, I did get in the car to go to work, and my God, it smelled like something or someone had died in there. So after checking under the hood and looking for dead squirrels in my wheel wells and such, I remembered that there was a steak in a bag on the seat in the back. And I did, in fact, take the bike to work that day. Still probably only about the fourth worst thing I ever smelled. So gangrene is kind of the most advanced or extreme form of necrosis. And that's essentially when the whole limb is gone and it's trash. And it's kind of like the zombie movies where you have to cut off the arm to save the rest of the person. And that's the third worst thing I've smelled. The second worst thing I've smelled is, it's not shrimp, but it's crab related, and they're both sea animals that live in a shell. So let me have this, if you would. I was preparing a crab dish at home, and I opened a can of lump crab meat that apparently was past its expiration date. I was unaware. Woo! Second worst thing I've ever smelled. Let me tell you about the worst. So if you're not familiar with how medicine works, you do 4 years of college, and then if you're lucky, you get into med school and you do 4 years of medical school. And then, depending on what you're gonna specialize in, you do anywhere from 3 to 7 or 8 years of residency and subspecialty training, depending on sort of what your specialty is going to be. So anyway, medicine takes a long time, takes a big commitment, blah, 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 all that bullshit. I don't tell you that to tell you anything except for this. A residency is where a dumb little docling goes to become a full-fledged physician, who is then allowed for some ungodly reason to go out into the world and do medicine, even though we still call it practicing, without supervision. This may alarm you, or if you're one of my nurse colleagues, then you know it already, but none of that matters because there's still a lot of dumb fucking doctors out there. Anyway, I was in my residency in the clinic, and if you know anything about a residency clinic, it's where doctors go to learn, which of course is important because you don't want your doctor to be a mouth-breathing idiot, but it's also where people who are uninsured or underinsured tend to go for their care. Probably those two are correlated in some fashion. But what I am going to say about that is, honestly, I think for any money, you're going to get the best care anywhere at one of those centers because, A, the little docklings are so hell-bent on impressing their attending physicians that they pay extra attention, take extra time, and are extra scared of getting yelled at, chewed out, or made to look stupid. Not only that, but they've got somebody checking all their work. When's the last time you went to the doctor and your doctor checked with another doctor to see if they were doing it right? That's what I thought. Suffice it to say that the residency clinic is a colorful environment with lots and lots of unique characters, and they're not the sorts that you'd sort of expect to see at a doctor's office. And keep in mind that it's very unusual that the same people sort of come back and back and back and are loyal to one particular provider, which is why it's especially unusual when someone comes into a residency clinic and asks for one of the doctors in training by name. On this particular day, that's what happened, and I was that physician. Looky there, y'all, we've got shrimps. By the way, the only reason that she came to see me, and me specifically, was that I had actually had, as luck would have it, the opportunity to treat one of her coworkers on call several weeks prior, and that associate of hers had come in with a condition that, had we not diagnosed it and treated it with emergent surgery, she probably would have not survived. So that friend thought that I was the greatest doctor of all time and had decided that all of her coworkers needed to see me. Vividly remember her appearance, which I will only describe vaguely, but she had bleach white hair, shoulder length, a shirt that was too small, shorts that were even smaller, and fingernails that were probably 4 inches long apiece, bright orange. Let's try these while they're hot. Always squeeze some lemon on top of your seafood. Gives it a brightness that you can't get any other way. Super crispy, super fresh, perfectly cooked, if I do say so myself. Not overdone, not underdone. Amazing crunch. Cocktail sauce, bomb. About 25 minutes, start to finish. I doubt that your dasher's gonna get to you that fast. This is way, way better. So this woman who came to see specifically me, at the recommendation of her friend, came in because it had been her day to work a few days prior to that. Actually, you know what, boilers? Was gonna get really specific on this one, and I'm still kind of in that fledgling phase, and as much as I would like half of you to go running for the hills, and as funny as I think that would be, ultimately I'm on a quest for subscribers and word of mouth, and I don't want you telling everybody you know not to come and watch. So suffice it to say that there was an issue that I rectified, but in doing so, the smell was so bad, and I mean just vile, that it shut down an entire medical practice for the rest of the day. Oh my God, you guys. I just have to tell you, this is so damn good. I wish that I could share it with all of you, all of my 2 subscribers, or whatever it is that I have now. But there's enough for all 3 of us. Come over. I'll heat it back up. Tell your friends to subscribe. We need more. Have you ever been somewhere tropical or like the depths of southern Florida, and it's August and you're in your air-conditioned quarters, and you walk outside in the middle of the day and the heat just sort of hits you it just smacks you in the face? So this was that, plus hot trash, plus dairy, plus the time I was at the Asian market and their refrigerators had all malfunctioned. I'm obviously a little triggered yet. I mean, it has only been about 24 years. So the way the residency clinic was run was there was always a supervising attending physician, and all the docs that were involved in some regard in our education sort of rotated through and took turns and days. And I remember vividly that the doc who was there that day tried very hard, without letting us harm anyone, to allow us a long leash and let us sort of do what we did, because it really is the best way to learn. And yes, we had to run every case past him before people were allowed to leave and before anyone would sign off on their care. So there was no recklessness involved, but by and large, he would sit in the front office and we would bring him cases and he would stay out of our way and let us swim by swimming. And I think that was great, and it was actually what made him one of the best teachers, because I knew that any jam I got into, he could get me out of, and I never felt like I was on my own, even though I felt like I was able to operate independently. It's a great way to teach, and I try to teach that way myself now, largely as a result of his influence. He came running out of the office, which was a couple of 100 feet away and around a corner or two, and said, "What the hell is that?" And it sounds like a big fish story, but we did, in fact, have to shut down the clinic for the remainder of the day, cancel the rest of the scheduled patient encounters. And I don't know how they got the smell out of there, because the windows, to my knowledge, didn't open. And I don't know how they got it out of the carpet and out of the wallpaper. And I don't know what became of that patient. But one thing that I do know and will know until my dying breath is exactly what that smelled like. And that, my friends, is why I can look Gangrene in the face at work and say, you know what, you're not scary. You're only the third worst thing I've ever smelled. This is Boyle. Thanks for coming. See you soon.